What up, everybody? Back again for another week of the Endzone, brought to you by Gym Bag Entertainment. Check us out on YouTube. We're now on Spotify as well, and it's great to be back. I missed you last week. Unfortunately, I had a little medical issue with my daughter, which made me unable to do both the Endzone and tell the tape. But she is doing well now, and I am ready to start delivering the news again, and hopefully won't miss any more weeks, God willing. So, what do we got for you this week? First and foremost, biggest piece of news in my opinion, Jason Kelce, brother of tight end Travis Kelce, the center for the Philadelphia Eagles, after 13 seasons, announces his retirement. And I don't know about you guys, but I watched a good amount of his retirement press conference. And if that isn't a man who loves the game of football and is heartbroken about leaving the game of football, I don't know what is. That was a moving and heartfelt goodbye to the game of football. A great acknowledgement of the people who have either influenced or helped or gave him any memory during his lifetime of playing football. The man is one of the greatest centers, offensive linemen to ever play the game. The Philadelphia Eagles will be worse without him around. The game of football will be worse without having him around. If you've never watched listened to his podcast or watched his podcast with his brother Jason Kelce, New Heights, great show. I love it myself. So I'm a huge fan of Jason Kelce, seemingly one of the greatest guys. I feel like I think I would want to meet. Super cool dude and incredible football player. So hats off to this man. Give him his flowers. He definitely got himself a ring before retiring, and yeah. Congratulations to a wonderful career with one team. Not a lot of players can say that. So once again, hats off to Jason Kelce. Great career. Moving on to another bit of news. Russell Wilson has been released from the Denver Broncos. Not a huge surprise. Big salary cap hit for the Denver Broncos. Seemingly, they will use this draft to get somebody, whether it's Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, or one of these other guys, Bo Nix. There's a few guys that they could choose from. Maybe they'll try to go after someone in free agency, with the likes of Kirk Cousins and Ryan Tannehill. They could be looking to trade to acquire the likes of Justin Fields or Mac Jones, but who knows where they'll go from here. Lots of moving parts, so we'll see where it ends up. But Russell Wilson being released from the Broncos means that he needs a home. And before this show even started, I had it written down. I was going to talk about Russell Wilson. I thought it might have needed to be a trade, but now it looks like he's going to be able to be signed in free agency. His last few seasons will mean that he will not be very expensive. So teams will be able to acquire him without taking too big of a hit on their salary cap. So what teams could Russell Wilson end up playing for? The two biggest teams in my head for Russell Wilson is going to be Pittsburgh Steelers, Las Vegas Raiders. These two teams make the most sense. Two teams that are struggling at the quarterback position, cannot get it right since Big Ben and Derek Carr. Although the Derek Carr situation hasn't been that long, it's still not a good look for the Raiders. So, my personal opinion, what makes the most sense based on a solid coaching staff, O-line, run game, and weapons in place would have to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. I love it for Russell Wilson. I think he would fit in nicely there. I don't know if I love him in the uniform per se, but I do think Pittsburgh is a strong landing spot for Russell Wilson. Now, I don't love it particularly, but I also think a good landing spot could be the New England Patriots. If you look at it like this, if New England decides, because Caleb Williams is going to go 1, and then presumably over the past few weeks, Drake May was supposed to go number 2 and Jaden Daniels 3. A lot of rumors have Jaden Daniels climbing up to that 2 spot. If that were to happen, in my opinion, Drake May is a bad choice at number 3. He is not NFL ready, in my opinion. He's probably going to need that Patrick Mahomes year. And so I don't know if I believe that much in Drake May. I'm not a huge Drake May fan. Nor am I a Russell Wilson fan at this stage in his career. But if the Patriots were to use the number 3 pick to draft Marvin Harrison Jr., and then make a move in free agency to grab the likes of, Calvin Ridley, or I don't think they'll be able to grab Michael Pittman due to the franchise tag. Maybe they make a trade with Cincinnati to acquire recently franchise tag T. Higgins. Whatever the case may be, making a play for another wide receiver with the young guys that they have. I think that is something that could possibly work out. But once again, I don't love that move for the New England Patriots, but it is a move that could be made in order to be able to draft young talent without having to spend a lot of money at the quarterback position. You draft a quarterback, you're going to have to spend money at that wide receiver position, whereas if you draft a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., that won't be the case. You'll have your star, and you can kind of add some weapons around him. So, with that being said, I also wanted to talk about some other quarterbacks that are either on the market, trade block, and so forth. Next on that list after Russell Wilson is probably the most notable quarterback. The first domino waiting to fall is Justin Fields. Clearly, the Bears are going to draft Caleb Williams. At this point, I don't even think that they can not draft Caleb Williams. I had that whole thing last week about trading for Justin Herbert, which I still like that. I love that for Chicago. Get Marvin Harrison Jr., blah, 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 all that stuff. But probably not going to go that way. Number 1 pick, Caleb Williams, right? So now they got to do something with Justin Fields. The number 1 landing spot, in my opinion, for Justin Fields is Atlanta. Atlanta needs that quarterback. There are rumors about Kirk Cousins in that going there as well. But Justin Fields to Atlanta makes the most sense. It really will. He'll have a lot of weapons in Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier. Good offensive line, relatively good defense. It's an excellent landing spot for Justin Fields. It will give him his best chance to succeed. Also, once again, I do like this rather than Russell Wilson. You'll have to spend a little bit more money, but I do like Justin Fields to New England. Once again, you could draft Marvin Harrison Jr. You can acquire a wide receiver in the second round, like Worthy. He blew it up in the combine with speed, so if you put Marvin Harrison Jr. on one side and Worthy on the other side, that could be a dangerous combination. Also, you'll have Pop Douglas, and maybe they'll acquire some tight ends. But I do like the idea of Justin Fields to New England. But I believe that Atlanta makes the most sense. Next on the list is Kirk Cousins. Minnesota the head coach claims that they want Kirk Cousins back in Minnesota. And I think that that's a good relationship. I haven't heard anything that would make me think that the relationship between Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota staff is broken. But does he want to go there? Is he going to get the money that he wants in order to stay there? So Atlanta does seem like the most logical place for Kirk Cousins to land as well. But, Kirk Cousins in Minnesota, it does seem to make sense. Like, He's a locker room guy. They love him there. But with the injury that he took and what he's probably going to ask for money, I don't know if it necessarily makes the most sense. A team that would also make sense would be the Las Vegas Raiders. They have the same type of weaponry: Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers. You have Hunter Renfro. So you have decent run game in Zamir White. Are they going to re-sign Josh Jacobs? Doubt it. But they have the pieces there to make it work. So, but Atlanta makes the most sense, 100%. Next on my list is Mac Jones. There's a lot of places Mac Jones, I think, could go that make a ton of sense. The two teams that make the most sense is the Las Vegas Raiders, where I think that they have some people there that could work with Mac Jones. I think that they could get Mac Jones at a steal. I think that they can get him in his, what is he, in his fifth year. So they can get that fifth-year option, and probably because of his lackluster performance in New England and the fact that they didn't want him, I believe that they could re-sign him at a song. You know, he's not going to cost a lot of money, and I think you can use that time to decide on an alternate move in later drafts. If you want to look to rebuild, maybe you want to trade Devontae Adams to get some more draft capital. I don't know. But Mac Jones to the Raiders makes a ton of sense. Also, Seattle. Seattle is loaded with weapons. They need someone who's accurate and can get rid of the ball. Seattle seems like the perfect matchup for Mac Jones. He is a game manager, and he can deliver the ball. He's going to stay in the pocket, and he's going to get the ball to his receivers. He's very good at that. Not the strongest arm in the world, but when you have guys like DK Metcalf, you have the rookie JSN. If they retain Tyler Lockett, Will Dissly, they got tons of weaponry. They got two running backs, both who can catch out of the backfield. This is probably the most ideal landing spot for Mac Jones. You could probably get him for a fourth-round pick. I feel like fourth round would probably be the highest. Maybe you might have to pay a third. I doubt it, though. But if it was a fourth, maybe you give up a fourth and offensive lineman. I don't know. But I can't imagine Mac Jones being a big draft pick give up. So Mac Jones to Seattle, to me, makes absolutely the most sense out of any quarterback landing spot that I have written down. Next on the list, you have Sam Howell. So obviously, the Washington Commanders are going to select a quarterback with the number 2 overall pick. Is it going to be Drake May? Is it going to be Jaden Daniels? Who knows? Are they going to retain Sam Howell? I don't think that that's going to happen either, but maybe they will. He would be a great backup, but he's still young, and I think that he's not. I don't think there are 32 quarterbacks in the NFL better than Sam Howell. I think there's a lot of quarterbacks better than Sam Howell, but I don't believe that there's 32. So I do believe that there are teams out there who would be willing to trade for Sam Howell. Once again, maybe a third or a fourth round pick, but nonetheless, someone would be willing to give up draft capital for him, like the Giants, possibly the Jets. The Jets kind of make the most sense to me to take him because you have Aaron Rodgers. You don't know what he's going to be. But the thing is, outside of, height and the ability to throw, like their abilities on ball throwing, we got two quarterbacks that are very similar. They're scramblers. They make plays with their feet, and they make big explosive plays. So I think that Sam Howell to the Jets as a security blanket makes a ton of sense. The Jets need to 100% find themselves some security behind Aaron Rodgers. May it be acquiring Sam Howell, Ryan Tannehill, anybody, Jacoby Brissett, trading for Mac Jones, They have got to acquire somebody. Gardner Minshew is going to be a free agent, and we all saw what he did with Indy, one play away from leading the division and making the playoffs. So the Jets have to do something. Sam Howell would be a great move for them. Next on the agenda, we have a lot of moves being made. Like I said, Russell Wilson has been released. The Seahawks made two big defensive releases. They released Jamal Adams and Quadre Diggs from their team. The New York Giants have decided to not franchise Saquon Barkley. And as of 40 minutes ago, franchise tags are no longer able to be given. So the likes of Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Calvin Ridley, all these guys, they can't be franchise tagged. Some guys who were franchise tagged were Michael Pittman, T. Higgins. I believe T. Higgins was franchise tagged so that they would have the freedom to be able to trade him. Will they, won't they? Who knows? I think they might be looking to make a splash in the draft. Can they get Brock Bowers or one of these other later wide receivers like Brian Thomas? Josh Allen, the edge rusher for Jacksonville, was franchise tagged. Jalen Johnson was franchise tagged for not Baltimore. I forgot what team Jalen Johnson plays for. Justin Matabuk from Baltimore was also franchise tagged, as well as Tampa Bay's Anton Whitfield and Kansas City. They put the franchise tag on Ladarius Sneed. So let's look at some other stuff I wanted to talk about. So I wanted to talk about the Carolina Panthers. You know, I like to talk about some what-if scenarios and things that I would like to see in the league in this year to come. And where we ain't got no real football, at least not for a couple weeks before the XFL starts up, why not just talk about some stuff that might happen? The Carolina Panthers are a team that made a lot of mistakes and did absolutely nothing last year. One win all season to get the number one overall pick, just to have to give it to Chicago for a guy, Bryce Young, who isn't a bad football player, isn't a bad quarterback, and was it a mistake to draft him at the top position? Yes or no, you know? We don't know what he's going to be to come, but when you see what C.J. Stroud did, I think you know you made a little bit of a mistake. Would C.J. Stroud have been just as bad on Carolina? Maybe. I don't know. That's not for me to say. I don't believe so, but I don't believe it would have been much better. Not a lot for Bryce Young to work with, so it's time to get Bryce Young some things to work with. Let's start off with Chris Jones, defensive tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs, free agent, only signed a one-year deal last year, so now he's a free agent. Kansas City Chiefs, it should be a no-brainer that they sign Chris Jones, but will they? Can they? I don't know. So I think the Carolina Panthers should swoop in and grab themselves a slice of Chris Jones pie to just bulk up that defense, which is already pretty good to begin with. And they franchise tag Brian Burns. So if you have Brian Burns and Chris Jones on the same line, it's going to be really tough for offenses to stay on the field, giving Bryce Young even more opportunities to make a play. I had on here that they should acquire Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman has just been franchise tagged, taking that off the table, so I have to switch that up and say Calvin Ridley. You need a weapon. Yes, you have Jonathan Mingo, your rookie from last year. It's not good enough. You don't have any picks in the first round. Hopefully you can grab somebody in the second round to bulk up your offense. I don't know how well you're going to do in that position. But it's time. The Miles Sanders experiment in Carolina did not work out. And as much as we all love the running back Chuba Hubbard, however you say his name, I don't believe he is a number one running back. I think he's an excellent backup, but I don't think he is a number one guy. I think they need somebody like a Josh Jacobs. I know I was talking about last week, Josh Jacobs is a perfect fit for Dallas. That doesn't mean Dallas is going to do what I tell him to do. So Josh Jacobs would 100% boast of the backfield of the Carolina Panthers. He is better than Chuba Hubbard 100%. So let's bulk up this backfield. Let's move on from Miles Sanders, trade, release, whatever the case may be. Hunter Henry. They just released Hayden Hurst, so you need a tight end. Let's bring in Hunter Henry as a red zone threat. Also, Jonnu Smith released from Atlanta. Let's bring these two veteran tight ends in, guys who can block. Hunter Henry's a huge red zone threat. Jonnu Smith is fast. You saw the sweeps he did in Atlanta when nobody understood why he was getting the ball over Kyle Pitts. There's a reason he got the ball. He is fast. He has good hands. Bring in Jonnu Smith. Bring in Hunter Henry. And try to make what the Patriots did work for you. Get this two tight end set in there. They're gonna help with the blocking and giving Bryce Young more time to throw the ball, or at least open up the run game for likes of Josh Jacobs, and if not, Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard. I think you need to bring in a veteran backup. When Bryce Young went down, you was relying on Andy Dalton. That experiment is over. Let's bring in Gardner Minshew. That way, at the very least, if Bryce Young proves to not work, at least you got a guy who you know is going to come in, be a gunslinger, and move the ball down the field. They need to bulk up that offensive line. You got Kevin Zeitler and Connor Williams. Two guys that could come in and help that offensive line once again, giving Bryce Young more time to get the ball out there. Darnell Mooney, a guy who can take the top off of the defense, speedster, decent hands. Once again, bring in your number one. You got Jonathan Mingo, and now you got to bring in a number two guy and a guy who has not had a quarterback with the arm talent of the likes of Bryce Young, someone who's going to get the ball in on a dime. So that's what I like for the Carolina Panthers. Offensive weapons are a must. You can keep Adam Thielen if you want. DJ Chark's got to go. And Jonathan Mingo, hopefully in his second year, can step it up and be the guy that you wanted him to be. But right now, it's not working. Chase Young, also a free agent. Bulk up that defensive line even more. But you did keep Brian Burns. I wrote Chase Young down before Brian Burns was franchise tag. So we'll see how that goes. So now I want to talk about the Patriots a little bit. So everybody knows, anybody who knows me, I know I touched on it the last time I was here. The Patriots need to find a way to draft Jaden Daniels. I believe with my whole heart, Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in the draft. I believe he's better than Caleb Williams. He is more accurate. He's faster. He's got the better arm. Caleb Williams is all about improv and athleticism. Jaden Daniels has worked on his accuracy. And in his college career was the most accurate quarterback in college. So that says everything you need to know. I hope that Washington makes the mistake and takes Drake May over Jaden Daniels, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. If that does not happen, if you cannot acquire Jaden Daniels, I think we need to move on from drafting a quarterback, and we need to sign the likes of Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. That just seems like what makes the most sense. I don't believe Drake May is going to be the franchise quarterback. I don't think he's going to be terrible, but people have compared him to Justin Herbert, and I just don't know if he's going to be that. I think he's going to fail. For some reason, I have a bad feeling about Drake May. I didn't like Drake May from the beginning. Might be that his name is Drake. I'm not a big Drake fan, So Drake might be a fake. So let's go with that. I really wanted Mike Evans. That's no longer a possibility. Mike Evans signs a 2-year deal with a lot of guaranteed money. So you can't go that route. Can't go the Michael Pittman route. He's also been franchise tagged. T. Higgins, maybe he's able to be traded for. But I keep saying his name, Calvin Ridley, is at least a guy that you can sign and can work out as a number one. And then maybe you can grab one of these second-round wide receivers with your second pick. But your number one pick now has to be Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, if you cannot acquire Jaden Daniels, I believe you have to go Marvin Harrison Jr. 100% over Drake May. I cannot stress that enough. Maybe trade back up in to get the likes of Michael Penix Jr. I would love that. I know he's a little bit injury prone, but if you were to sign Jacoby Brissett, which I love, I would love to have Jacoby Brissett as the backup. It's on the paper. But if you could trade back into the first round to get Michael Penix Jr. with Marvin Harrison Jr., that's great. I love that for him. What would even be better is to flip the script, trade down to 4 or trade down to 5 and get a Dunze, and then trade up and get Michael Penix. You have that relationship kind of like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. That's a move I absolutely love as well. And then you acquire some draft picks for later on in the draft to maybe acquire more weapons or more offensive linemen, whatever the case may be. I do believe we need to re-sign Ezekiel Elliott. He was a excellent backup for Raheem Mostert. Excuse me, I said Raheem Mostert. I'm all over the place today. With Ramondre Stevenson, I feel like they have a very similar skill set. Ramondre's a little bit better, more, he's got the youth on his side, but Ezekiel Elliott can come in and get the job done if and when Stevenson goes down. Like I said, Jacoby Brissett, I think that's a solid backup. We need a solid backup, especially if we get a rookie or even if we get Justin Fields. Justin Fields can get hurt because of the way he utilizes his legs. If we were to get Russell Wilson, he's a little bit on the older side. So I think that it just makes sense to have someone who can come in and get the trust of the team right away, help with leading the locker room, bring up a rookie if need be, or help a struggling young quarterback find his way, whether it's Justin Fields, Michael Penix, or even just backing up Russell Wilson. So start from the beginning. Let's get Jaden Daniels on the team. If we cannot acquire Jaden Daniels, we must go Marvin Harrison Jr. or trade down a little bit and acquire Dunze. Trade back up in to acquire Michael Penix or sign Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. That way, you got your number one wide receiver. You can sign someone in the offseason like a Calvin Ridley or anybody else who's out there. You have Pop Douglas. I think we need a tight end, and I love Noah Fant. I think Noah Fant has been misused since his days in Denver. Seattle did not utilize him correctly. He was a very good tight end, and I think if he came back to New England, I think he could be that tight end again. So let's get a Dunze, let's get Michael Penix, or let's get Marvin Harrison Jr. with Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. Snatch up Noah Fant, bring in Jacoby Brissett as the backup, re-sign Ezekiel Elliott, shore up that offensive line, and I feel like the Patriots will be competitive in our division once again. Our defense is already tough. We already have it there. We just need to bring that offense back to where it used to be. Jaden Daniels does that for us. But if not, we need to acquire enough weapons that someone like Justin Fields or Russell Wilson can come in and make magic happen. All right. We ain't got no more NFL, but now we got the UFL. And the UFL starts March 30th with the first game, Renegades versus the Stallions. So you have two divisions. We have the XFL and we have the USFL. In the XFL, we have the Arlington Renegades, which is the defending champs from the XFL. We have the DC Defenders, once again, another team brought back from the XFL, with the San Antonio Brahmas. and the St. Louis Battlehawks. In the USL division, conference, we have the Birmingham Stallions, the Houston Roughnecks, the Memphis Showboats, which is a weird name for a team. The Showboats? You couldn't have, like, sometimes I feel like teams just aren't really thinking when they name their teams. The Showboats, that's like the Pelicans, the New Orleans Pelicans. Who names their team the Pelicans? What a dumb name for a team. Am I the only one? The Pelicans is a dumb name. Showboats is a dumb name. And then the Michigan Panthers. And, did I write it down? I thought I wrote it down. Well, anyway, they're going to have 10-game regular season culminating in a championship game on June 12th. So it could be exciting, could be fun. I'm personally excited to watch it. Do I have it? I thought I wrote down some notable players, but I guess I must have forgot to write them down. Because there are some guys that played in the NFL that are now trying to make it and be in this UFL. I'm excited for it, and I'm here for it. I just want some football. So let's see how it goes. All right, let's talk about the draft. I wanted to give you my first round, what I think, just the basics, what's most likely going to transpire in this first round draft if there are no trades made. So obviously, Chicago Bears are going to draft Caleb Williams. It makes the most sense, and I'm excited to see how that goes. They were a 9-7 team with Justin Fields. You got to have a better record. It's got to be 10-6, 11-5 with the likes of Caleb Williams, right? Makes the only thing that makes sense. I think I meant 9-8. I think they were 9-8. But they got to be a better team with Caleb Williams. It's the only thing that makes sense. Washington most likely going either Drake May or Jaden Daniels. My bet is that they go Jaden Daniels, which for me is unfortunate because I need my guys to get him, and I don't believe that they will. With that number 3 pick, I got to believe that the Patriots are going to draft Drake May. Once again, seems like the most logical decision. They're going to want to draft a quarterback. Drake May is considered the top 3 guy. I do like J.J. McCarthy over Drake May. I just don't know that the Patriots are going to make that move. I heard something about the fact that J.J. McCarthy is going to be a top 5 pick. Will that actually transpire? What team is actually going to take him? It would only make sense that it would be New England not wanting to go with Drake May. And I wouldn't be so mad about that. But J.J. McCarthy, just like Drake May, I don't believe is year 1 ready. At the number 4, you have Arizona. Most logical move is that they draft Marvin Harrison Jr., who is considered to be the best wide receiver in the draft. And then you have the Los Angeles Chargers. I think that they would draft Malik Neighbors. The reason why is Keenan Allen is obviously getting older. And then Mike Williams is never not injured. I feel like that's a guy you got to move off of. It wouldn't make sense if I'm the Chargers. It doesn't make sense to hold on to Mike Williams because the man hasn't played a whole season his entire career. So I feel like you're going to move on from that. Quentin Johnston, I don't believe that is a loss. I think that he can improve, but I think if you bring in Malik Neighbors, the second best wide receiver in the draft class, along with Keenan Allen, and depending on what they're going to do with that run game, with a guy like Justin Herbert throwing the ball, I feel like it can only be success. But maybe they have other plans. I'm not really sure. Malik Neighbors makes the most sense. You have the New York Giants next. They're stuck with Daniel Jones. They made a stupid decision, giving him a big contract. I don't believe that they love that contract, and I believe that they're going to have to ride it out at least for one more year. So if you have that and you're trying to build, why not draft a wide receiver that you can build around? You're not maintaining Saquon Barkley. You're not putting the franchise tag on him. Most likely he's not going to re-sign with the Giants, and if he did, what better way to team him up than to grab the next best guy, and that is Rome Odunze. Guy is a beast. I actually like him a lot. Like I said, I want him on New England. I feel like it would be a good decision to get him, but Who knows what's going to happen, but I believe the Giants will go with Odunze. Next, you have Tennessee. Tennessee is lacking weapons, and there aren't any wide receivers at Odunze that are worth drafting as high as 7. Personally, it would make more sense for them to go with Joe Alt, the offensive lineman, but I think they might go for Brock Bowers. He's the best tight end in the draft, one of the best tight ends that has been seen in a while. A lot of people are comparing him to George Kittle, which is a huge, that's a huge attribute to give him. So I could see that Tennessee grabbing him just to have a star on their team. Will he be a star year 1? No one thought that Sam Laporta would be as good as he was. And Dalton Kincaid, halfway through the season, he kind of stepped up and he found his light. So why not Brock Bowers? Brock Bowers is considered to be better than these guys, so you could imagine that he could bring a lot of potential to Tennessee with a young quarterback like Will Levis. In Atlanta, I know I was saying, Kirk Cousins could end up in Atlanta, as well as Mac Jones, Justin Fields, a lot of guys. But what also makes sense to me is for Atlanta to say, you know what? We got a young wide receiver. We got a young tight end. Got a young running back. Let's just go ahead and draft J.J. McCarthy and get a young quarterback. And we got a young defense. Their whole squad is young. Backup running backs young. They got a young squad. You bring in a young quarterback, a guy who can lead a team, and a guy who has a big arm like J.J. McCarthy, seems to be very coachable and gets nothing but praises from his head coach. It makes a lot of sense for Atlanta to draft J.J. McCarthy at this spot. Then you have number 9. You have the Chicago Bears. And there's no wide receiver at this spot. You could say Brian Thomas Jr. I don't know that I love him at the 9, but the best offensive lineman is Joe Alt. And I think that this would be an excellent move for Chicago to make sure that your young man, the number 1 overall draft pick, has some real good protection. Joe Alt makes the most sense. The New York Jets, biggest problem outside of not having Aaron Rodgers is a terrible offensive line. So the only thing that makes sense in the draft for the Jets is offensive linemen. So let's go ahead and grab Fashanu, second best offensive lineman in the draft. Grab him. Your defense is good. You got good weapons. You got one of the best run games in the NFL. You should have a good quarterback. Let's shore up that offensive line. The Minnesota Vikings. Now, I would love for the Patriots, if they go wide receiver, to go up and get this guy. I just talked about it a little while ago. But what makes the most sense for the Minnesota Vikings, if you can't bring back Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix, even though he's been injury prone in college, has one of the best arms in this draft. The man can throw the ball deep. You have all the weapons in the world. You can use the rest of your draft capital to make sure the offensive line is holding it down for him. But Michael Penix is a stud. With the ball in his hands, he's going to make magic. And with the weapons you could give him, it just seems like it makes the most sense. It seems like it could be a match made in heaven. So I don't know. But to me, Michael Penix makes the most sense at 11. For 12, in Denver, I don't know what Denver's going to do here. I believe Denver's going to probably try to trade up in this draft to acquire a quarterback. Whether they try to make some move with Washington or with the Patriots, maybe they try to draft up a little higher just to get J.J. McCarthy. I don't know what they're going to do here. But they didn't have a great offensive line last year. And Fuaga is going to be there at number 12. So that makes the most sense to me. But I think there's a possibility that Denver is going to trade up to acquire a quarterback, seeing as how they don't have one. Stidham's not going to be the guy. Maybe you try to make a move to get Kirk Cousins. Maybe they're going to make a move to acquire Justin Fields, trade for Mac Jones. There's a lot of options that I've talked about. Maybe they're going to tank this year. Maybe you get that offensive lineman, and maybe you sign Ryan Tannehill or Gardner Minshew, and you just let the season play out. Like, what do you really have to lose? where you can end up with a high draft pick, and whatever best player is available will be going to you. Next, we have the Las Vegas Raiders. Las Vegas Raiders, to me, is a team that's just the main thing they need to address is that quarterback position, right? So I do like Bo Nix to the Raiders. I think that's a solid move. But is Bo Nix a top 13 pick? I don't think so. Then I would say Brian Thomas Jr., but you got Devontae Adams, you got Jacoby Myers, you got Hunter Renfrow, and you got Moreau as your tight end. Like, I don't really know what you do for the Raiders. Dallas Turner makes a lot of sense as the edge rusher. What's his name? Byron Murphy as the cornerback. I think that's probably the move that makes the most sense is Byron Murphy at cornerback. So that's probably what I would say right there. Let's build up that defense that wasn't so great last year and worry about acquiring a quarterback in free agency or via trade. So with that being said, the New Orleans Saints, you got Derek Carr. It's not the best suited person for that team. I don't know who really is going to work out, but right now you have Derek Carr, and Derek Carr is a franchise quarterback at this point, and if he's healthy, he could do some things. He has some good weapons there, and I think they can build on that. But I do think they can use some defensive help, so Dallas Turner, the edge rusher, to New Orleans. In Indy, let's bulk up the offensive line with Jerzan Newton. Seattle, offensive line as well, Amaris Mims. And then you go to Jacksonville. Jacksonville's biggest problem outside of turning over the ball was their defense. And you got a guy like Nate Wiggins, one of the fastest, I think maybe the fastest cornerback in the combine. So sending him to Jacksonville seems like a no-brainer. So Nate Wiggins to Jacksonville at number 17. Cincinnati. So I thought that there might be a possibility if Tennessee doesn't take Brock Bowers, there's a chance that that Brock Bowers could fall to Cincinnati at 18. Not necessarily sure that makes a whole lot of sense. Also, Brian Thomas here. Maybe you trade away T. Higgins for some draft capital, and then you draft Brian Thomas to replace him. That makes a whole lot of sense. Brian Thomas Jr. is extremely fast. He's a big body wide receiver. Kind of a one-trick pony, deep threat guy. But I like that for Cincinnati because you got Jamar Chase, and you have a few other pieces. Nothing great, but if you added Brian Thomas, I think that could really add. But J.C. Latham, the offensive lineman, to me that makes the most sense. The Rams also need to add to their offensive line. So I would say Latu, offensive lineman. Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a defensive team. And like I said, the only real sticky situation they have is that quarterback position. And if you add a guy like Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, Mac Jones, whoever, any of these guys that you can acquire through trade or free agency will really fill that void better than anybody you have there right now, especially Kenny Pickett. I don't know why they believe in Kenny Pickett, but Kenny Pickett is 100% a backup quarterback. So I would say go Kool-Aid McKinstry because he's going to add to that defense, and that's what Pittsburgh's known for. They're known for defense. You have all the offensive weapons you need. You don't need Bo Nix. Go ahead and sign yourself Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Kirk Cousins. Any of these guys will come in and do what you need them to do at the quarterback position. For Miami, 100%, this is crazy, but I think Worthy is the most logical decision. All you do is speed. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, Achane, like all these speed guys. Add Worthy to that. And I don't see how that doesn't make sense. I also think they should add Jonnu Smith. Obviously, I talked about that with Carolina, but Jonnu Smith is a fast tight end, and they have been terrible at the tight end position. Like, I don't even know who their tight end is right now. Like, there's nobody you can name of any value that's in Miami. If Miami were to come in on a surprise move and draft Worthy, They were already the fastest offense in the NFL. This makes them even more dangerous. What are you going to do when Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Worthy just bullet down the field like Hail Marys all day? All day Hail Marys. Obviously not going to just run Hail Marys, but Hail Marys all day. Have them run just straight routes, and then A-Chain out, just out on the flat. No one there to cover him, blowing through defenses. I think that's the most underrated move that could happen in this year's draft is for Miami to go after Worthy. It just, oh man, it would blow. I think it would blow everybody away. But I don't think that they make that move. I think Cameron Kitchens, offensive lineman. Philly at number 22, defense. Let's go with Jackson Powers Johnson. Houston, offensive line. So Jordan Morgan will be available at that slot. Dallas, always got to be working on that defense. So Quinion Mitchell. Green Bay, once again, offense looks great. Young quarterback, young wide receivers, young tight ends. You know, they do need a young running back. There's nobody first-round worthy. They need to go and grab one of these guys in the third round. I think all the running backs are going to go late second, early third, and I think that's right where it would make the most sense for Green Bay to grab one of these young guys. But yeah, Chop Robinson, edge rusher, just to add some more talent onto that pretty decent defense. Then you have Tampa Bay. And this is probably the one spot where I would say it would be okay to grab a guy like Bo Nix. You know, you're talking about the 26th pick in the draft. It's late first round. You can add to the defense, bulk up the offensive line if you want, but you got your run game. You have all the offensive weapons that you need. And if you re-sign Baker Mayfield, which to me makes the most sense right now, you're not going to spend a lot of money. Give him a 2-3 year deal, $20 million a year, $22 million a year, whatever the case may be, and just use this draft to just bulk up on defense. Maybe grab some late second round wide receivers, whatever the case may be. I love Bo Nix to Tampa Bay. I think giving him a year or two behind Baker Mayfield just makes him even better. The boy's got an arm. Baker goes down. He can come in midseason and make some strides. At 27, Arizona's back in it. Edgerrin Cooper. Defense makes the most sense. At 28, you have Buffalo. Back to offense. Troy Franklin. Troy Franklin is a wide receiver I love in this draft. Fast, good hands, route running. He has everything. He does it all. Buffalo needs someone to give Stephon Diggs the ability to be Stephon Diggs. He was very disappointing this past year. Gabe Davis is just not it anymore. It's time to move on from him. No franchise tags, no re-signing. Boys got to go. Bring in Troy Franklin. I think that helps a lot. You still got Dawson Knox, and you have the young boy Dalton Kincaid. James Cook in the backfield. And you know what? I'm not going to lie. I think it might be a smart move to bring back Devin Singletary. Just saying. I'm not a big Devin Singletary fan, but I thought he was really good in Buffalo. He did really good in Houston. I think that's over there. I think you got to bring him back. And then you have Detroit. The only thing I think Detroit needs to do is work on that defense. I think that Jared Goff is a very sufficient quarterback. I feel like nobody is actually talking about this, and I kind of want to take a couple moments to say it, but what's going on with Hendon Hooker? He was injured all year last year, I know, but he was a Heisman Trophy finalist, one of the best quarterbacks when he was drafted, I think, last year, and the boy has immense talent, and they said last year, at the end of the season, Hendon Hooker was healthy. Ready to go. They weren't going to play him last year. The 100% no way he was going to play last year. Jared Goff's playing amazing. But is Hendon Hooker going to be ready next year? And if that's the case, does he beat out Jared Goff for the starting quarterback position? Where does that put Jared Goff? Is Jared Goff going to be available to go to another team next year? Or are they going to stick with Jared Goff and trade Hendon Hooker? That's a door that I can't wait for to be open and to hear what's going on with that situation. But Detroit Lions, They gotta work on that defense. Enos Rakestrain. And then Baltimore, once again, still gotta stick with the defense. There's no offensive weapons, I think, that are worth grabbing this late in the first round. So Darius Robinson for the defense. Their defense is already tough. You add another first-round talent to that team, and that's just magic to me. So Darius Robinson to Baltimore. San Fran, Kingsley Suamate. That's an offensive lineman. So just to give Brock Purdy more protection. And then finally for Kansas City. Now I know I said Worthy to to Miami, because I think that makes so much sense. It's just to me, it's a no-brainer. This is what your team is about. You got to do it. But if you don't, San Fran will be stupid to not add him. Like, he's a speedster, going to be the fastest guy in the NFL. He's going to give you a little bit of that Tyreek Hill back, just a different body style, but still a fast guy, good hands. But if not, Lad McConkey, they need offensive help. Rashid Rice started to develop towards the end of the season. You got Travis Kelce's getting a little bit older, so let's go ahead and bring on Lad McConkey. Maybe he might be able to do something to help the offense. But I do like Worthy more if he makes it to the final pick in the first round. What else do I have here? Yeah, I think that's Dalton Schultz. That's the last thing I wanted to bring up. Dalton Schultz signs a 3-year, $36 million deal with the Houston Texans, which I think was a very smart move. I think that Dalton Schultz worked out very well for C.J. Stroud. I think he's going to be a nice security blanket for the young kid, and it would have been a huge mistake to not bring him back. So now you got your tight end, you got 2 young wide receivers. Maybe you pick somebody else up in the draft, like I said, like a Brian Thomas or one of these other young speedsters. It just makes a lot of sense for Houston to go offensive lineman, though, because they need to give C.J. Stroud more time to get the ball out there. But that's all I have for you this week. So make sure you're checking us out on YouTube, Jim Bag Entertainment, on Spotify, also Jim Bag Entertainment. I'm going to get the socials going hopefully this week. I'm going to put out my reels. But make sure you check out, like, and subscribe on YouTube. Please give me a 5-star review on Spotify if you listen. I actually listen to the podcast, and I think it sounds great, so I hope you do too. Please, any feedback would be greatly appreciated. And until next week, see you on the End Zone. And next week, later on this week, we got Tail of the Tape with Mike Johnson. Until next week, have a good night.